me tell you a little bit about Steve Perry. First of all, GDF11 is a naturally occurring peptide that has been cited in several papers as having an amazing capacity to restore aging muscles, hearts, and brains in mice. Okay, man, that's the end of the presentation. That's what GDF11 is. That's it. But we're fortunate to have one of the foremost sort of self-hackers of GDF11 anywhere, which is Steve Perry. Steve's path to GDF11 research started at the University of Pennsylvania with a degree in computer science in 1980. That's when the computers were like really big and bulky and...
Mainframe.
Yeah, mainframes, right. Now that's on your phone, right? Since then, Steve has founded and sold several software and tech companies. The ultimate complex system, the human body, is highly programmed, and aging is no exception. Steve believes that lifespan is programmed by group selection based on research and environmental selection pressures. Okay, so we're going to hear more about that. Please welcome Steve Perry.
Okay. This thing work? All right. So how many people have seen my presentation before? Okay. Wow. Well, we got some new stuff. You could take a nap for a little bit. The end is. I mean, we're putting some heavy stuff out there. So anyway, but for those who don't know anything about GDF11, we'll do the usual introduction. That's the molecule over there. You all have it in you. It's one of the largest cytokines in the human body. It weighs 45,000 Daltons. It's 8 times the size of insulin, and it's 2.5 times the size of growth hormone. It has to be injected. So keep that in mind. I'm patient 0. I started on GDF11 over 5 years ago. So the fact that I'm here is a good sign. And also, just want to let you know my background. I'm not a molecular biologist, though I'm extremely well read. I read probably 30 papers a week, and I can talk to any of these guys pretty easily. We live at great times. You can become an expert at anything you want. Anything you want. It just by reading, get it. Wikipedia. Oh my God, the Wikipedia, PubMed. You can become an expert at this. Don't let the molecular biologists intimidate you. It really isn't that hard. Anyway, so I'm not an MD and not a molecular biologist. Lifelong software developer. My specialty is database, which came in very handy because I've collected terabytes of data. That's how I figured a lot of this out. Put all the data into this huge database, and you write reports. You see what correlates, what works, and what doesn't, and so that came in pretty handy. All right, let's see if this thing works. They never do. I'm pushing the right button. Okay. Now you guys are going to like this. Why did I choose GDF11? Well, I've always believed that aging is under programmatic control. Yeah. Okay? I mean, it's not random. Natural selection, specifically group selection, is responsible for determining lifespan. Now, lifespan is correlated to 3 things. Availability of resources, stability of the environment, and predation. Now, you guys are not going to like this, but dying on time is good for the species. All right? If you're an evolutionary biologist, you would never argue this point. That's how we got here. In 4 million lousy years, we doubled our IQs, and believe me, dying on time is important. You cannot eat your children's food. If you do, species hits a wall, and species is done. And this is the way it's always been. So we know it's programmed, and My favorite mammal is the bowhead whale. This guy could easily live over 200 years. And he's a mammal, just like us. But he has a huge advantage over us. He lives under the polar ice caps, which have been the same for 100 million years. He's got infinite amount of food. He eats krill, which are like shrimp. They travel in cubic miles. So he just plows through these shrimp and krill and eats them. And he has very little predation. Basically, maybe an orca might show up every 50 years. So these guys got it made. They evolved a lifespan of over 200 years. Humans have not had such an easy time. We've almost died of famine 5 times. We've had 2 ice ages. And you think the ice ages were easy. The last ice age, 99% of Japan was wiped out. So, given what we've been through, our lifespan, actually, our real lifespan is 25 to 30 years, just so you know. That's what humans lived to throughout human history. And of course, it's changed with sanitation and antibiotics and food supply. But basically, we're about middle of the road for mammalian lifespan. Okay, another proof. This is on my site. This is the best paper ever written. I read it. I try to read it once a month. It's called "The Math That Proves Humans Can Live for 10,000 Years." Wow. Great paper. My favorite paper. I can't read it enough. And this is one of the screenshots from the paper. It's about rockfish, and they're all genetically identical. Now, what's really interesting is the calico rockfish lives 12 years, and the rough eye lives 205 years. Anybody care to speculate why that is? It's a good start. GDF11, yes, it is under GDF11 control. There's no question. No brain. Who said that? that helps too. All right, so anyway, the rough eye lives in the middle of the Pacific, about a mile down. Like the bowhead, got plenty to eat, plenty of shrimp, no predation. The calico lives off the coast of LA. That calico's lucky to get 12 years. I mean, there's so much pollution and mankind hitting them with boats or whatever I mean, come on. So the calico's got a pretty rough eye. Hey man, he's got a, these are same genetic. And look at the variation. Yeah, so I like to stare at that. In fact, I have that pasted up in my my living room for inspiration. Okay, so quick background of GDF11 supplementation in humans. I'm patient 0. I started injecting GDF11 in June of 2014, which means I've been on it 5.3 years. There were over 200 GDF11 self-experimenters. Actually, I believe there's over 1,000. People used to check in with me, but now the regimen is so well known. I think there's easily over 1,000. We use sophisticated biomarker software to help dose, come up with the right regimen. Now, we're going to say a lot of controversial things today, but you know what I have in my favor? Terabytes of human data. I don't work with mice. I'm not trying to make mice live long. I have 3 cats. They make sure mice don't live long. My building's infested with mice, but I live in New York. They might have no mice in my apartment. Anyway, so anyway, there's a lot. I'm happy to debate anybody here. There's going to be some very controversial stuff in here, including telomeres are not the cause of aging. Anyway, hey, you know what? I would never stand up here and embarrass myself if I didn't have data. You're going to see the data, so stay awake. All right. So most of aging is caused by the atrophy of our stem cell populations. Shrinking stem cell populations mean declining repair of key systems, which leads to our death. It's not random. It's programmed by natural selection. Okay, another thing that GDF11 has going for it, it's endogenous. You all have it in you. If you don't, you won't make it another month. That's how important it is. So basically, full disclosure here, you're not going to turn 21 on GDF11. Sorry. But it will take you back 5 to 10 years. We have a ton of biomarker evidence on this. And then aging is greatly slowed. I mean, I can show that I haven't aged much since I took GDF11. Any system that relies on stem cells for repair is positively impacted by GDF11. Our knock it out of the park. We do have knock it out of the park biomarkers. You're going to see one today that's going to blow your mind. Include cardiac, neural, muscle, skin, and immune improvement. Okay, continue why I got into this. I've always been a big fan of parabiosis. You guys know what parabiosis is, right? You tie an old mouse together, young mouse. The old mouse becomes young again. What they don't tell you is about half the time the the young mouse bites the head off the old mouse. That somehow they never mention that in the papers, but they. You guys are like all to the life energy and all that. Well, I think the young mouse detects that the old mouse is siphoning all his life energy and says, "Well, screw this." So, anyway, parabiosis works. You know what? You can go to RadFest and you can talk to anybody there that really knows their stuff. They're not gonna debate that parabiosis works. You know, I mean, I think anti-aging is like it's like software development. I mean, we had many different camps, you know, Windows, DOS, Linux. Anti-aging is very similar, but no one will argue with you that parabiosis works. Problem is, there's 100,000 substances in the blood, and figuring out which one of these substances de-age was impossible. 30, 40 years, there's just nobody could figure it out. Fortunately, we live in the age of rapid screening technology, supercomputers. Harvard Stem Cell Institute, led by Amy Wagers and Richard Lee, figured it out 5 years ago. They isolated GDF11. They will win a Nobel Prize for this, I guarantee you. And they deserve it. It's an unbelievable achievement. I mean, just think about it. It's just mind-blowing. Anyway, GDF11 is the majority of what controls aging, but not the only thing. I'll admit that right now. There's other things involved, probably growth hormone, leptin, and X, Y, and Z, and we don't know what X, Y, and Z are. But believe me, I'll be working hard to figure out what they are. But this is the majority of it. Mechanism of action of GDF11 is DNA repair of stem cells. Your hematopoietic stem cells make all your blood, are extremely prolific. They make 90,000 progeny a day. And those progeny divide, and those progeny divide, and eventually those end up as leukocytes or red blood cells or whatever. And they're extremely important. This is not a cell population that you want to see decline. Anyway, eventually, oh, by the way, just so you know, in case you think telomerase can help stem cells, stem cells are immortal. There's a great Salk Institute paper that came out about a year ago. Stem cells upregulate telomerase, so they're immortal, but they have what Achilles heel. I mean, they proliferate so fast. Imagine making 90,000 progeny a day. That's more than one a second. They incur a ton of DNA damage. To put it in molecular biology terms, they incur a ton of DNA insult. And basically what happens is once the DNA of the hematopoietic cells, I like to talk about the blood cells because that's where we measure our telomeres and everything else. And anyway, the the damage becomes so severe that the cell goes senescent. And they senesce for 5 to 10 years, and then they die. And that's that. Okay, anyway, GDF11 repairs the DNA damage, restores function of stem cells. This is a very famous graph from the Amy Wager's paper. You can see they gave, there's the 2 bars on the left are young, 2 bars on the left are the old mice. The green, it's all common sense, green is good, orange is some DNA damage, red is senescent. Yeah, and you can see, you give the young mouse GDF11, not a lot happens. Once again, it is really key being a clinician, working with hundreds of people. I have seen this. I worked with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. They take GDF11 and they go, "What's the big deal? This is nothing. This is a waste of time." Most of them put it on the shelf, and I say, "Well, your DNA damage of your stem cells is not that great, but if you have vision." And I do have some 30-year-olds that are taking it. If you have vision and you want to really slow your aging, at 30, if you want to look age 30 at 40, you should take it. So, but you know, how many people that age have that kind of vision? Just so you know, I started on growth hormone at 34. So I had that kind of vision. Growth hormone is 1/100th as powerful as this, but at least I tried. Okay, so now we move into the let's see, the mechanism of action of GDF11 is also a senolytic. It improves, it upregulates SMAD2. Anybody know what SMAD2 and 3 are? These are pathways that cause cell apoptosis. GDF11 is about cell proliferation. You got cell proliferation on this side. You have to have apoptosis on this side. You don't need to be a molecular biologist to understand that. Apoptosis has to happen. Okay. Continue on my why I did this. GDF11 mimics parabiosis. It's shown to improve 3 key systems, which makes it very compelling. It's endogenous. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, how dangerous can an endogenous substance be? Except for thyroid and insulin. But okay. If you take picogram levels of thyroid and insulin, you won't die. Anybody? I love reading about the history of insulin. It's so interesting. But we won't. I don't think I have time to go into that now. But the parallels to what we're doing now in the history of insulin are very close. So anyway. The molecular structure, this may not freak all of you out, but this is something that blows me away. The molecular structure of GDF11 is the same in all vertebrate species. Cat GDF11, orangutan GDF11, rat GDF11, elephant GDF11, they're all the same. And that is not true of any other peptide. I have cats, and someone get diabetes. You're much better giving a cat cat insulin than human insulin. They differ by a few base pairs. So this is the only cytokine that I know of that is conserved across all species, which shows how important it is to life, how early it showed up in evolution. Organs transplanted from older to younger people. This is another thing that's interesting. If GDF11 was toxic, they wouldn't do well. But actually, organs from older to younger people do really well. And then this is just something obvious that I really don't even need to say to this group, but letting aging take its course is risky as hell. Risky as hell. I mean, all you got to do is another thing I have up on the wall: Social Security actuarial life table. The cost of doing nothing is pretty bad. The cost of doing nothing is death at 78.9 years old. So you may think I'm a nut job, but I say, and I am. But I would say that. But doing nothing is worse. Okay, full disclosure. This is a very, very powerful cytokine. Very powerful. You got to respect it. Excess GDF11 will give you shortness of breath. GERD. It's a stimulant. I do have people that abuse it, and arrhythmia is possible. If you're under my tutelage, you fill out the daily spreadsheets. I can see arrhythmia a mile away. The only thing my cohort sees now is occasional insomnia. Wake up at 5 a.m., which is actually, for a guy that likes to wake up at 10:30, is no fun. But there's worse things. So, but we really have the top three are something only to do it yourself or see. Proper dosing of GDF11. Now this is another mind-blowing thing. Above age 50, the starting dose is 250 picograms a day. Anyone know what a picogram is? Anyone pay attention in the physics? Why? Well, yeah. I mean, this is why. A picogram is a trillionth of a gram. And just to give you an example of how small this is, so you're talking about 250 picograms. If you took this an equivalent amount out of the Empire State Building, which weighs 330,000 tons, be the equivalent of taking out 4 light bulbs. So that you're talking extremely tiny doses. And that was one of the hardest parts of figuring this out, is how small a dose is. But you know what? How many stem cells are there in the body? Definitely less than 250,000. I've never got a straight answer, even from the brightest molecular biologists on Earth. I've never got a straight answer to that. But I would say, you have 20,000 hematopoietic cells, probably 35,000 mesenchymal stem cells. There's hardly any. So that's why this dose is so tiny. Anyway, there's 2 parts to the dosing strategy. It is not that easy to work with, unfortunately. It's not easy like growth hormone or testosterone. There's 2 parts. There's downregulation. That's where you kind of replace your deficit. And that's my job to figure out when you're done. The biomarkers just go, everything looks great, and then all of a sudden, boom, they go the wrong direction. I say, oh, you're downregulated. Then you go on the maintenance dose. Then it gets easy. Then, I dose like once a week. It's not hard. I tried for years to come up with a formula. Maybe somebody will eventually, but I couldn't. So basically, avoid side effects. We look at trending we call these the big 4. Blood pressure, pulse, HRV, and reaction time. And you could use this for any anti-aging regimen. You could use it for, D&Q, rapamycin, adenoviruses. The big 4 should improve. These are really important biomarkers. We actually take 18 biomarkers and then 20 others on the side, but you improve the big 4, you're doing something. You are de-aging. Of course, the big 4 are blood pressure, reaction time, pulse, and HRV. Trending goes the wrong direction, then you're doing something wrong. You're taking too much, and we of course, that's my job. It's what I do all day long. I sit and look at spreadsheets, and I say, you got to cut the dose. Dosing GDF11 without trending biomarker spreadsheets is like dosing insulin without a glucometer. That's what the spreadsheet looks like. It looks intimidating. It's 5 minutes in the morning. Well, maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes in the morning. And really, the first 2 months are tough. And after that, then you're on the maintenance dose. There's some work, but you guys didn't think reversing aging was going to be easy. And I get so much. A lot of people in the cohorts, oh man, it's such a hassle. I said, come on, man, it took you 40 years to get to where you are. Give me some slack here. It's not that hard. Just wake up and do it and put it in the spreadsheet and have your coffee and do whatever you got to do. But all these things have to be done at waking. No coffee, no talking to anybody, nothing. This is blood pressure trending on GDF11. Almost everyone's blood pressure goes down. I have a few doctors in the cohort, and this is all they need to hear. This is all they said. Lowering blood pressure is life-giving, and these guys know what they're talking about. And this is a typical trending. We use Google Sheets, by the way. So we share. I can see what you put in. You can see what I put in. Heart rate variability. Love this biomarker. It's totally correlated with age. As you get older, it goes down. It's totally counterintuitive. Do you realize if your heart is like a metronome, that's not good? It means you're very old. The variability between the RRs is what you want. Something to do with our evolution, something to be able to respond to a tiger chasing you. But as a nerdy guy, nerdy computer nerd, I never understand HRV, but you want the variability to, the more it is, the better off you are. And we measure that carefully. Reaction time. This is a biomarker guaranteed to improve on GDF11. Mechanism of action is increased blood flow to the brain, endothelial repair, neurogenesis. Read the Wikipedia entry for GDF11, which is huge now, and you'll see a ton of papers that talk about reaction time improving. There is nothing on the planet that can reduce reaction time. You can play all the video games you want, you can drive race cars, whatever you think is going to do it. It's sadly, it goes down 1% a year on average. And by the way, people with, this guy had dementia. I do some dementia patients. People with dementia, I could just tell they have dementia looking at the reaction time. They're like 600 milliseconds. I was like, well, I hope you don't drive. Anyway, so you can see though, the reaction time drop on GDF11 is very, very quick. Very quick. Usually in a week. You can see here, I guess, yeah, we're looking at maybe a month on this guy. But, and then you get your reaction time down, everything changes. You become more eloquent, your memory improves, you're fast, you're quick, you can do comedy. It's reaction time is extremely important biomarker. People don't pay enough attention to it. Here's a guy that didn't listen to me. Bad BP trending goes up. I said, hey, you got to put the GDF11 on the shelf, cut the dose. A lot of people that are not in my cohort don't listen to me. Anyway, this guy ended up with insomnia. Just anecdotal feedback. I'm not big into anecdotals. I'd like to hear it, but obviously I'm a numbers guy. But most people say they get increased stamina, don't get winded climbing stairs, improved skin elasticity, greater mental clarity from the reaction time, gray hair reversal, about half the people see that. Improved sexual performance, almost all the cohort is male. The GDF11, the endothelial repair capabilities are legendary, so you can extrapolate from that. Better sleep, vivid dreams, greatly increased appetite. I've actually gained a lot of weight on GDF11, a lot of muscle mass, but I'm always hungry. I live in New York, and I love New York restaurants. So, hey, I know Jim would just say, you just go, but I like to go with a chimichanga in front of me and a margarita. So anyway, improved sense of smell. This is a great biomarker. Dementia patients and Alzheimer's patients cannot smell. So big improved sense of smell. And this one is actually, last one is pretty funny. I don't know the scientific basis, but most people on GDF11, they get a dumpster and they throw most of their stuff out. My apartment, if anybody wants to come visit, I'm at 11th and Broadway, 808 Broadway, near Union Square. My apartment used to be piled high. It's like, oh, this old computer, this IBM XT is so cool. I can't get rid of that. I can't get rid of that. It's like tripping over stuff. Now the place is totally minimalist. Yeah, you can run around the place. I love minimalism, and most GDF11 improves cleanliness and hoarding behavior. Okay, that's enough anecdotal feedback. I think you guys are all going to RadFest. You look at a new regimen. Forget show me the money. Show me the biomarkers.
Show me the biomarkers.
That's it, man. That's it, man. Yeah, stop the bullshit. Show me the biomarkers. Show me the big four. Show me reduction in BP, reduction in pulse, increase in HRV, reduction in RT. If you got time, do some of the other ones we're talking about. Okay, so we've reversed plaque in a few people, pretty severe plaque. You can see on the left, this is a CMT scan. You can see the plaque in his carotid artery, that thing that sticks out. And on the right, you can see it's totally clean. We also reduce intermediate thickness. So this guy, went 41% down. Just so you know, there are like anything else. Yeah, you could. I would never do this, but you could go on the Mediterranean diet, and you can reduce your IMT by 5%. But that's not going to happen for me. Hearing, vision, and olfaction all improve. Mechanism of action is GDF11 moves cells from the auditory epithelium into active state, so your hearing will improve, your vision will improve. We reversed a couple cases of macular degeneration. Not totally, but improve them. Usually the hearing improves 27%. So we have the home biomarkers that you saw, and then we have the doctor's office biomarkers. And so let's look at some of the home biomarkers. You can see on average, reaction time down 12.5%. As I said, there's nothing that could do it. If you guys got anything that could reduce reaction time, please tell me about it. Because as far as I know, there is nothing. Blood pressure usually comes down by 7.2%, 28% participants. One person's diastolic up 1.41. Not every, there's usually not. Reaction time is the only one that's like guaranteed. Resting pulse usually comes down about 7.7%. That's pretty good. My favorite biomarker, heart rate variability, usually can increase RMSSD by about 22%. Shows that GDF11. This is pretty exciting. And if you go on the GDF11 Wikipedia page, you'll see a paper out of China. The Chinese are blowing us away in research, blowing us away. There's no money in GDF11, by the way. You know what it costs for a year at GDF11? $10. So how many drug companies are lining up to do that? There is a company called Alevion that's coming out with a variant of GDF11 that they're going to charge like $20,000 a year for, which they could patent. We'll see what happens with that. Anyway, we have had a couple people that are pre-diabetic that took the GDF11. The glucose came down. They don't need to take anything. Mechanism of action is now known. It improves islet beta cells that produce insulin. It does make you stronger. We have the hand grip, usually up 10%. And this is the biomarkers of aging from my anti-aging doctor, Joe Raphael. You can see here, this is one of our rock stars. His age went from 53 to 36. Big improvements. Cardio age, 31 to 23. Neuro age, 36 to 29. Skin age, 42 to 36. Okay, now we're going to get into some controversial stuff. All right? I'm ready for a good debate. I'm up for a good debate. All right? Now, this is a very expensive test. Unfortunately, I don't get enough people doing it. It's $300 a pop. UCLA Immune. If nothing else gets you, you can do all the right stuff. You could be like Jack LaLanne. Guy died at 95 of pneumonia. No naive T cells left. If you run out of naive T cells, you're in trouble. And you can see we raise naives very nicely, usually doubling them. And down in the yellow, that's breaking news. Amy Wagers is filing patents right and left. Just so you know, they cost about $1 million each to file. And here's her latest patent that I brought up. She says that 24-month-old female mice that received daily injection of GDF11 showed dramatic increase in thymic cellularity compared to age-matched, controlled, injected mice. I love the way she speaks. Basically, their immune systems improved dramatically. And I've seen it, she's seen it. This is big stuff. Nothing gets you, immunosenescence will. So pay attention to your immune system. Okay, augmentation pressure. I actually have one of these things at home. Great biomarker. As you get older, your arteries stiffen. On the systole, if your arteries are like a cement pipe, yeah, the systole goes, it ejects, it comes right back. And your augmentation pressure, for a guy my age, augmentation pressure of 10 or 12 would be right. We bring it down about 64%. My augmentation pressure is about 4 or 5. And that's actually what I titrate to. But I actually don't take the GDF11 regularly. I just look at that and I say, ooh, augmentation pressure a little high, we're going to take a little today. So great biomarker. C-reactive protein comes down for everybody, a good measure of inflammation. Also, people's temperature comes down on GDF11. Skin elasticity improves on average 15%. Not for everybody. Okay, now we're going to get into some. This is all new stuff. No one's ever seen this before. Yes. We're talking about BPH. Okay. 4 participants. I have about 6 or 7 what I call disciples, people that really love, that had something great happen to them with GDF11, and they had up giving it to like 10 other people, and that's how everything gets off the ground, right? So anyway, this guy is a yeah, he thinks GDF11 is from the heavens. Anyway, he had severe BPH, and I didn't realize this. You can actually die from it. I don't want to get really graphic here, but it's you don't want to hear about this. Anyway, so he's rushed to the hospital because he couldn't urinate, and they gave him Flomax and catheters, and you know what you do with the catheters. Anyway, so he's pretty bummed out. He decides, what the hell, try GDF11. Anyway, symptoms completely reversed. So the mechanism of action here is believed to be the Hox genes. Anybody know what the Hox genes are? Anybody ever wonder why my nose is shaped the way it is? 5 bar fights? No, it's it's shaped the way it is because of the Hox genes. Hox genes control the shape of our organs, and as you get older, they switch off. And so the prostate expands, the heart expands, a lot of organs expand, and MOA is believed to be switching the Hox genes. So this guy has gotten plenty of people on. Basically, he'll have lunch with a friend. He'll say, "You're going to the bathroom too much," and you need GDF11. So we're doing very well in that area. Okay, now we're gonna get into real controversial stuff. We're gonna kill a sacred cow and we're gonna eat it. Okay, this is probably the most important slide you've seen. Now GDF11. Now remember, we're talking about 250 trillionths of a gram. It's not a telomerase activator. It is not a telomerase activator, and yet everyone's telomeres go up radically on it. You see, top 2 guys, their telomerase age, they did telomeres, came down 17%, 26%. The other ones, using the Maria Blasco stuff, telomere length, almost all improve. These are big improvements. You couldn't do this with a telomerase activator off the shelf. And so I go to the Greek islands, where I do my great thinking, and say, how can this be? How can this be? Anyway, now this is my theory, and I think I can back it up, and a lot of people agree with me. GDF lengthening telomeres strongly suggests that telomere shortening is caused by declining stem cell populations. Less hematopoietic cells producing pristine long telomere progeny results in the pool of leukocytes. Oh yeah, it's just like if you have a pool here at Scottsdale. I'm sure you guys got to like, have constant new water coming in. Well, if you shut off the new water, the pool's going to evaporate. And it's not a great analogy, but it fits the location. So how long does it take for a pool to evaporate here? About a couple of weeks. Anyway, so short telomere cells have replicated many times. They have considerable DNA damage. They should be telomeres are anti-cancer mechanism. They long telomeres, short telomeres show a lot of DNA damage. They should be left to go through apoptosis through SMAD2, SMAD3 pathways. And GDF11, of course, upregulates SMAD2 pathways. So GDF11 is a powerful cytolytic. It has to be. Also, the telomerase activators can't even approach the biomarker improvement of GDF11. So I know that hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent here, and but in 1986, it was time to let go of DOS and move on to Windows. I didn't learn that lesson. You can ask me later about my issues with that. Anyway, okay, more evidence that AJ is caused by stem cell atrophy. This is a picture of Heydrich van Andel Schipper. She was Dutch. She died 205 at age 115. Probably one of the coolest women that ever lived. She knew she was exceptional at 115 and said, yeah, you guys can, she donated her body to science, and we learned a lot from her. And by the way, you could do the same with me. This is in the public record. I got to figure out how to do this, but if I have no health issues, none whatsoever. But I ride my bike all the time, I ski all the time, so hey, who knows? So if I don't make it through a bike accident or something, make sure this body is donated to the proper authorities for autopsy. Anyway, she was extremely cool. Anyway, she only had, when she died, she only had 2 hematopoietic cells left. And you usually start with 20,000. I mean, that is pretty strong evidence that stem cell atrophy is what does us in, I think. And that coupled with the fact that GDF11 lengthens telomeres, I mean, you gotta give that a lot of serious thought. And you don't have to be a heavy-duty molecular biologist to see that this stem cell atrophy is the biggest problem facing us. Anyway, I think I say the same thing 3 times here. I really believe in this. Anyway, stem cell count strongly suggests that stem cell atrophy is what does us in. Okay, now this is the finale. This is first time. Where's BBC and CNN? Now this actually this is big stuff. This is big stuff. I'm sure most of you know what congestive heart failure is. Yeah. And it occurs when the heart is too weak to pump enough blood to meet the body's needs. I got that off of WebMD. The average survival rate is 5 years. 275 people a year die from it. The treatments are terrible. There's only 2 treatments. There's Entresto, which is a drug that can raise ejection fraction. Ejection fraction is the amount of blood that is forced from the left ventricle into the body. Most of you in here hopefully have ejection fractions of 50 to 70. This is really, really important biomarker, and you don't want it to be low. Okay, so anyway, GDF11 raises patients' ejection fraction from 20 to 40%. Now, full disclosure here, this guy was on Entresto, and he also had ablation done, which is using RF energy to burn out a couple of nerves so the heart has less arrhythmia. So he had both those done. So and the maximum improvement of Entresto, the maximum improvement of ablation is 20%. So we'll give 25% to the traditional treatments, okay? Still, 100% improvement, they give 75% to GDF11. Anyway, I'm a man of science. I hate to use the word miraculous, but this really is miraculous. And to talk like a cardiologist, GDF11 is obviously doing some serious ventricular remodeling. So anyway, when I got this news, I was all tearful, tears of joy. I mean, this is big stuff. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I've had many happy moments with GDF11. This is the happiest because not a lot of ways out of this. Anyway, but after I got my composure, my scientific self returned, and I said, well, not that surprising, given the improvements in cardiac biomarkers like HRV, pulse, BP, and augmentation pressure. I mean, we've seen, obviously, we're doing some serious cardiac remodeling. This was not the shocker of the century. Still, sometimes I think I should forget anti-aging and just help these people out. So we'll see. Anyway, am I out of time?
Yes.
I hope.
Oh, we gotta see about your cats.
All right, yeah, cats. This is only a slide if I have enough time, but obviously cat GDF11 is the same as human GDF11. And now remember what I said in the beginning, it takes you back 5 to 10 years. You know, cats growing up, you growing up, same thing. But you take a cat back 5 to 10 years, oh, I mean, they do it's like not fair. They do way better. I mean, they look way better on GDF11 than I do. You can see he was all yellowy and wrinkly, and now he's white, and all the stuff around his eyes is gone. And yeah, we have a Slack community that has what's it called, allometric dosing. It figures out it takes the human dose and figures out what you should give to your cat or dog. But yeah, I love cats. I have 3. I'm sick of them dying after 13 years, and these guys are going to be around for 30 years, I hope. So yeah. So okay, after all that heavy stuff.
Do they sleep?
What's that?
Do the cats sleep okay?
They actually, when you give GDF11, you know, there's a 24-hour lag. 24 hours later, they're going crazy. They should know better than wake me up, but they go crazy. So, but they do great on it. You know, hopping on the bed, you know, running on the roof, chasing birds. They're doing all these cat things, and you know, so far so good. So we'll see. I don't take HRV on a cat. I think that would be really hard. I think, yeah, they get so nervous that they would. We'd never get an accurate reading, but but they look great. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
All right, excellent, Steve. We got time for a few questions. What about, so you say the GDF11 is really cheap?
Yeah.
And where do you get it from?
If you Google it, there's probably 20 labs that sell it. So, yeah.
But no matter how cheap it is, it still has to be injected, right?
Yep. And the hard part is you do have to dilute it. So you make a master vial, and you make a daughter vial, and you make a granddaughter vial. People in our cohort, we do have a couple guys in the cohort that sell it pre-mixed, but because dilution is one of the hardest parts of this.
Wow, thank you. Good presentation. Very fascinating, to say the least. So, can you tell us if anybody that would be interested in getting started, what would be the best way? I know you said, you know, it needs to be cautiously done for many reasons that you pointed out. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what that process would be and maybe what to expect in it? So, you know, people who would be interested would want to maybe start it could know what to do and know what to expect in it all?
If you go to GDF11 Rejuvenation.com, I have some cards. If you can, it's a terrible name because no one can spell rejuvenation, including me. but GDF11.com was already taken. I tried to buy that. They won $90,000. So that must show that somebody believes in GDF11. Anyway, you go to my site. You should read it. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and a lot of papers. And there's a section called "Join Our Study." You just follow the directions on that. You have to sign a release. You know, as I said, one of the I mean, you can see obviously it's doing great things, but you know, it's not FDA approved. It's an injectable. That scares a lot of people away. And then I make you sign an agreement that says, no one's ever died on GDF11. That doesn't mean you won't be the first. And then everybody, then they all head for the hills. But you know, I mean, that's what's interesting about medicine. It's just that, you know, your number, what was that George Foreman joke about, I don't like flying, because if my number, somebody else's number's up, my number's up. Yeah, when your number's up, your number's up. You could have some issue, and take GDF11 and you know, have an aneurysm a month later. It has nothing to do with GDF11, but this is what keeps me up at night. I mean, so far it hasn't happened. I think it repairs things very fast. So if you were going to have an aneurysm, you probably might survive. But it's a tough business. It's a lot tougher than the software business, I'll tell you that. Software business, something goes wrong, you look at the log in the morning and say, oh, we divided by 0, okay, we'll fix that. Here, you like, well, who the hell knows what went wrong? Yeah, I that's my job. Is when you sign up, we send you a big box of biomarker equipment, send you a big fancy spreadsheet, and some software, and I that's my job, man. I just basically sit in front of a computer all day and look at shredding spreadsheets and make sure nobody runs into trouble. And I think I'm pretty good at it. 7-day-a-week job. It's a hard job, but it's very exciting. The first couple of months, you see a lot of improvement, and you get people say all kinds of nice things, and it's very rewarding. But you know, it's a lot of work.
Hi, I have a question. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
It's injectable IV or IM?
Subcutaneously.
Okay. And you mentioned a client on Entresto, so and you mentioned the good effects of blood pressure coming down. So do you have any clients on blood pressure medicines when they begin? And
Yes.
you help us titrate
Yes.
off?
I have, a lot of people are.
Okay.
You'd be shocked how many people are on blood pressure meds, and I'd say about half of them they end up chucking them out. That's actually an interesting problem. That's another thing I gotta watch out for. If you're on blood pressure meds, GDF11 will bring down your BP, and I've seen people go down to 90 over 60, and you know that's dangerous. I mean, you don't want to drive a car. And I said, look, you got to get, you know, you need to stop the GDF11 or you get off the blood pressure meds. The same with glucose. I've seen, you know, people, you know, on metformin and insulin, all of a sudden the glucose drops dangerously low. I said, look, you know, I don't think you need these interventions anymore. Well, yeah, I tell them to go to. I'm not a doctor, so I never say. You got to deep 6 your blood pressure is. I would never do that, but I say you got to go to your doc. And here's the link to your spreadsheet. Show them the spreadsheet. You can see you've come way down. And do you really need your ACE inhibitors or losartan anymore? And about half the time, doctor says, yeah, absolutely not. So.
Hi, thanks a lot for your presentation. Just 2 things. So I usually have just slightly lower than normal blood pressure. I've always had that. So it's just probably not going to affect.
Is it what?
I usually have.
I have that first part.
I don't have high blood pressure. I
Yeah.
usually have just slightly lower than normal. So it's just probably not going to affect that, right?
Right. Yeah. People that start with, it's actually it actually improves the things that are
Okay.
usually bad.
Thank you.
Bad shape.
And then my other question, so you mentioned signing up for the study, and then you send out, so do you send out, that was my main question was, how do you do those 4, you know, if you're going to do it yourself, how
Yeah.
you do those 4 tests. So you have a kit that you.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We hold your hand pretty well.
Great.
So yeah, you look too young for it.
Well, I've been doing a lot of other things, including being here
Are you
for a
over
long time.
You're not over 50. You're out.
Well, thank you.
Well, I know you said you were a numbers guy and you don't want to talk about the anecdotal stuff, but I'd like to hear what people are saying in terms of, and I know there's a placebo effect and everyone wants to believe in it and you're doing all this stuff, you don't want to admit that it isn't wonderful, but what are people saying in terms of stamina, strength, energy? What do people, I mean, are people taking it going, wow, I can't believe how I feel? I mean, what do you
It
feel
really
like
depends.
on it?
It really depends how old you are and what kind of shape you're in. But most people who are 50 fuse about it. Actually, at RADFest, there'll be 10 GDF11ers coming, and we had these tacky T-shirts printed up with the molecule on the front. So you can go up to them and while I'm not around, just say, tell me the good, bad, and the ugly. But yeah, most people have more stamina, more energy. And as I say, if you got some serious problems, like BPH or whatever, it really does help that. So Bradfest, corner one of these guys. They'll listen to me.
Thank you. That's all. It's fun to listen to such good improvement. It's fun. I love it. So just living like a progressive lifestyle, like with Burning Gym, and like being aware of food and exercise and forward thinking and all that has given me actually pretty good biomarkers right now. Would you, even if you have good biomarkers, would you recommend doing GDF11 just so that perhaps you are proactive instead of waiting until something goes wrong?
In this group, how old are you?
58.
I'd say GDF11 would be a worthwhile investment. I'd say you would see some improvement, but I mean, basically, I think eating healthy and exercise. Even though I'm a New York restaurant critic, you can tell by looking at me. I am very, very healthy. I could bike to Montauk. I've done half the Appalachian Trail. I ski. I do a lot of stuff. But you know what? I always think about Jack LaLanne. I mean, that guy did everything right. Everything. I was juicing and towing 70 boats on his 70th birthday. And, 95, no naive T cells, game over. And I mean, you guys are all into the doubling the human lifespan, right? Yeah. Well, the Jack LaLanne was a failure, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what next year.
How good your biomarkers are, right? I mean, you want the age reversal part of this is what you're saying is a good incentive.
Exactly. And I have a bunch of old timers. Next year, RADFest, maybe we'll do a presentation just on old timers that have been on it 4 or 5 years and see what's happened to them.
Yeah.
And that's my next big thing.
Are some of them
watching the old timers and see what the hell happens to
next
them.
year.
It's so far so good, but who knows? That's the thing. I mean, you got to take some risk. Who knows? 10 years you're gonna hit some wall. Who knows? But I say it's unlikely.
Oh, I meant to get back to you on this. You asked me that. I told you there was a couple scientists that mentioned that what might be an issue.
Yeah.
The study, I don't know how complete. I'm not even sure how complete that study was, but there was a study, a couple of them, done from some universities that when they did the autopsies or studies of some people that have died, the mortality rate was higher in people who had high GFD11 levels. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts on that? That's what I was going to actually let you know.
I mean, I'd like to read them.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I'll write a rebuttal. I mean,
Have you heard about that?
I have not seen that.
Okay.
And the human body is extraordinarily complex.
Yeah.
They could be just totally irrelevant.
Right.
But I've read that supercentenarians have high GDF levels, high GDF11 levels. So
Yeah, so there's different studies out there.
Yeah.
So these studies sometimes aren't always the most complete studies. That's the problem sometimes. So.
you know what's really interesting about doing this? In about 30 years, I'll be able to go, oh, I was right. So.
Hey, in about 100,
It takes a long time, though, huh?
in about 100 years, we'll be able to say, "Hey, we were right." So, we just got to stay alive for it, right?
Yeah. Live long enough to live forever. You know?
Hi, Steve. Hi. Just wanted to comment on something you mentioned, biotech company trying to bioengineer synthetic to a compound that is GDF11 that's been around for 50 million years in the invertebrate animal kingdom. I, for one, would be very leery of a sister molecule that tried to duplicate this and have a few nucleotides difference to make money. Your comment.
His comment, I know the CEO. His comment to me was, well, if we don't come up with a patentable version of GDF11, how the hell are we going to make money? And I go, we could do clinical slogging like I do every day. He goes, that's no way to make money. Yeah, you're sort of right about that. But I told him, I said, look, you know the story about Premarin. Premarin was an estrogen, a variant that was patentable, that made a lot of people sick. And this is the same play. It's the same play. And I said, I think this is even a more dangerous play because it's exactly the same structure in all vertebrate life. I just said, I don't think you should screw with it. They basically hung up on me.
We got time for one more question.
Thank you. Two quick questions. One, is the FDA looking at this? You said it's not approved, but are they reviewing it?
No, I don't have enough money to get that done. And you guys are, I got mountains of data that proves it's safe and effective. Any of you guys know how to do this? That would be a great contribution to humanity to get it FDA approved. So that's your homework assignment.
And second thing, just based on the other question, what has your experience been in the 5 years you've been taking it?
Oh, I feel great. You know what? I'm almost 62, and I'm into living hundreds of years, but I'm also into health span. I love to bike. I love to backpack. I love the outdoors, and I don't want to give any of that up. And here, I'll leave you with this one thought. I skied more this year. I biked to Montauk, biked to Albany. I've done more biking this year and skiing this year than I have ever in my life. And it isn't hard. It isn't hard. No knee problems, no aches, pains, and that's why I want to keep it. That's my thing. When I'm 100, I want to ski and I want to bike and I want to backpack the Appalachian Trail. That's my thing.